Good morning. I'm Katie Nemeth with AliYah Academy, and I just had some really important things to talk to you about this morning. I hope you can stick it out with me here. Everybody tells me that people will not watch long videos and you've got to make them short, and I just don't believe that. I think that there's things that are important and that we will listen and pay attention to things that are important. I'm praying that you do. So today I wanted to talk about the Education Freedom Act and the Tennessee Education Scholarship and the Education Savings Account, all these new things that are coming into Tennessee and have been in other states and are, I don't know how many more states are left, but they're chipping away at us. And if you're here to find out how to use these, you are not going to get it from this video. I am going to talk about why we should not be using these, and I pray that you listen and think about this, and hopefully we can turn this around. But, you know, honestly, I feel like this one snuck into Tennessee because homeschoolers were fighting it, and then they took homeschool, the word homeschool, out of the wording, and we went, oh yeah, it's not about us, don't worry about it. Well, it's here now, and it's going to affect homeschoolers too. It's going to affect all of us. It affects our children, and it affects our way of thinking and way of life, okay? So I'm going to give you just my thoughts on it because guys, this is what keeps me up at night, okay? I was up at 4 a.m., woke me up, and this isn't uncommon for me because I wake up and I think about, and I do a lot of praying, and I think about all the things. It's usually about my children and the things I want for them and the things I need to do for them. But this morning it was about this because I got a call yesterday, and I've been getting a few calls, but they've been just, you know, really not a big deal call, or people just curious about something. But someone was asking, you know, if we're the right category school to be able to use the funds at, because they're looking how they can use these funds, as I believe they were a homeschooler, and now they're looking to try and use these funds, which are, you know, I was just reading about it. They're opening them up to everybody. I just found out after it passed, I just found out how we fit into it, and then I let that go. So I'm not even looking at what, you know, what it entails and what we can do for it, because I don't want them, and you shouldn't either, and I'm going to tell you why. So first I wanted to tell you what I do every day, and I've had to retake this video like 3 times now because this is very emotional for me. I'm going to try really hard on this one. So I get up really early and I stay up really late to serve you and to serve my family. Here we go. I'm going to hold it together, guys. Okay. So pretty much Monday through Thursday, I go to the office that we've spent 12 years working hard to have resources for homeschoolers to give you freedom. And you know, this is a mission for my family. This isn't, you know, it's nonprofit. We pay our bills and that's it. So we go there I'm on the computer, I'm answering phone calls constantly from minimum 10 to 2. And then usually I'm there later continuing with things that need to get done, and, you know, solving homeschoolers' problems, taking care of things with the state so they don't have to, taking care of paperwork that you don't even realize needs done, answering phone calls, solving problems, whatever it takes, okay? Talking to new homeschoolers, you know, I do that just constantly. And then in between that, my children are supposed to be doing their homeschooling in the other room, and I'm checking on them usually while I'm on the phone, and I'm, you know, pointing at their work and telling them to do it. And then after that, later in the day, I'm, you know, looking over what they did, and we talk about what we should be doing next day, and, you know, all the things. So somehow my brain manages all that. We're usually in the office much later than that, working on other projects, but, you know, those are my set hours minimum. On top of that, I get up early so that I can do things with my children and things like this. Then on Fridays, I try to get my errands done, and I'm still on the phone. So I take calls as I'm running through Sam's. Some of you might have even called me, and I'm in the grocery store, but let me answer your questions. You know, let me call you back. Let me find that for you, whatever it takes. Okay. But I do have to get groceries every once in a while. So, and my whole family works my husband and my older daughter, and a lot of times my daughter-in-law, and my children are always working on little things for me too at the school. So we're all involved in this. It wasn't always like that, but now it just, the need is so great that my whole family has come on board to take care of things. So, and then on the weekends, let's see, Friday today, I'm up early because we're going on a field trip that we've organized, and we organize a field trip once a month. That's what we're doing this year, so that we can fill needs for homeschoolers, because anything that will help families get out of that school system, if we can show them that homeschooling is fun and engaging and a better education, and it is, and if they want to go on field trips, we'll help them go on field trips, and we get discounts to keep it affordable. Our umbrella school is affordable. This app that we're creating is affordable. We keep our costs as low as possible to continue serving as many families as possible. Okay, we know we homeschool too. I have 7 kids. The economy is not great. Stuff happens. We've gone through plenty of hard times in our journey, and I understand that. So we try really hard. But I also know that, things that are worth it are worth sacrificing for. So, let's see. And then in all my spare time lately, the weekends and everything, I do take the Sabbath off. And that's my family time, dedicated to them. But all my other spare time is right now, there's always something going on, but right now it's being spent on creating this app that hopefully will be out shortly. And some of you might have heard of it already, but you will be soon. So these are my notes from 4 a.m. I don't know if you can see this, like 3 pages of notes that I'm up, 4 pages of notes that I'm up writing. So I'm going to do a lot of reading, so I just get these points across. So this app that we're creating, it's actually, I feel like, a priceless resource, because it's going to help you regain what was lost when we gave our responsibility to homeschooling. Okay, we've in this country, we've had an amazing American excellence, they called it, and it was, we could get that back. We could, but we've lost it because we've given our responsibility to homeschooling over to the government schools in the first place, and we did that back around 1920. So there's the whole history of American education. I'd love to share that with you another time, but we've given that back. It's been generations now. We've given our responsibility away. So generations now, we don't even remember it. And we can't even feel what that felt like to be responsible for our own children's education. So we're trying to teach people and educate people that this is your responsibility, and don't give up your responsibility and this joy that you have to teach your own children, okay? To have them home, to have relationships with them, to build family bonds together. You can't do that if they're not with you all day. I will say that I'm not against Christian schools, because I am going to talk about some of those things. If you're busy, you work, and all the things, and you just can't, at least you're providing to have them in a hopefully safe environment. You can't guarantee that with a Christian school either. You can't even guarantee that with homeschooling anymore, with all the things that are coming into your home through the internet and the phones. You really have to be on guard. So now these we're going to call them, should we call them the Education Freedom Act, the EFA? Should we call them EFA vouchers? We're going to call them that, okay? So now these EFA vouchers, this can be any state. I'm talking to all of you. Any government money that pays for our children's education is a trap, okay? It's a trap. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to explain this to you, because everybody's like, well, it's our tax money. We're just getting it back. Why can't we do this? Well, there's a whole economic thing to that too, but I can't touch on all of it today. So we can already see this in other states. This is not for homeschoolers, okay? We fought, and I fought to not even have these at all. I really did. And it got passed. So once things get passed, I'm kind of like, okay, it's in. We're going to have to deal with whatever we've got now. I don't put a lot of stress on it, but this, I think we do need to say no. We just need to say no. It didn't include the word homeschoolers, like I said. So that was the compromise, right? The homeschoolers backed off. It got passed because homeschoolers have a really strong standing in Tennessee, and I think other states too, but I've seen it in Tennessee. We have Rally Day. We go up to the Capitol once a year. Everybody, you should go to that. And the politicians know, like, don't mess with the homeschoolers. And we want to keep that healthy fear of the people. And it shouldn't just be homeschoolers. It should be all parents, all families, all people, okay? They should have a healthy fear of the people, not to overstep their bounds and their power, okay? They do not have the power. We, the people, have the power, but we have to stand up and use it and understand what our powers are. So it was only the private schools. And the private schools, I love you guys. You say you want this. It's not going to be good for you either. And these are our children. These are all of the children that my children have to grow up with, that your children have to grow up with, are going to be going to private schools too, or still in public school. So it wasn't for Category 4 schools. And that's what AliYah Academy is, a Category 4 church-related school. We, do not have to go by, we have more freedoms because we're exempt from accreditation. We don't have to follow all the things, but yet we are registered with Tennessee Department of Education so that your transcripts and diplomas and documents are official documents that can be used in colleges and military and, job applications and whatever comes your way. Okay, so we're official schools, but we get more freedom, and that's why homeschoolers use this. Okay, use Category 4 schools. We do not, this is what gives us our freedom, that Category 4. All the other categories have, in some way, I'm not going to educate you on that right now, but in some way, they have to tell you what, when, where to school, okay, how to school, okay, how your child is schooled. They're more regulated, and they will be more easy to control, either now, which we're not, everybody's like, oh, they're not making us do anything, or later, because now the laws are in place, and if you want to keep that money, okay, eventually it will ruin the private school system. Eventually it will, okay? Maybe not right now, and no one sees any problem now. They're not asking us to do anything. It's really easy. They're just giving us money, and they're not asking anything. Okay, so typically the private schools are Christian, so I'm referring to them that way, but not always, okay? It will seep into, and already is, into the homes of homeschoolers. We're already seeing that with online classes. You've got to watch those. You can't just assume it's going to be good for, you're bringing your child home for some reason. Don't forget your reason, okay? Don't let those things into your home. We'll lose control. We'll lose control of what freedom we still have. We will lose our own minds. We're going to lose our minds. We've already lost. Like when I look back or if you start researching like primary documents of the founding fathers and when this country was established and when we had an amazing, like we had the best, and I'm going to say this in other videos too, we had the best education in the entire world of any time ever since then or has come. Okay. So the best, like 100% literacy rate, everyone could read because we had a passion for that. And people helped people and communities were strong, and it wasn't perfect. No, I'm not saying it was perfect, but we've lost even the idea of that, okay? And those, we're going to lose the minds of our children, and we already have to some extent. So I wanted to tell you real quick some things that have influenced me and a huge understanding of why we don't want to do this. So we have done a ton of trainings. I'm not going to get into everything. And we go to conferences. We go to conferences all over the country with other Christian schools because of what we do. When we built the resource center, we were like, wow, there's a lot more entailed in having an actual resource center and hybrid classes and all the things that go along with that. And we wanted to have all of the knowledge. And we spent like 2 summers just completely educating ourselves and going to anything that we could find. So Christian school conference, they were trainings. They weren't just conferences. They were trainings. And the Foundation for American Christian Education is what I'm going to talk about, because that's the one that I probably took the most from for what we can use as homeschoolers. And the FAC.net is their website. So that's the NOAA plan and the principal approach. That's what we're going to use in our app too, that we're going to teach you how to bring into your home and use. The training was wonderful, but it was more for like a school, typical schools. It's very hard and I've encouraged, if anyone wants to go to this training, it was great. It's a week in Virginia without your kids. So if you're a homeschool mom, it's very hard to get a week away from your kids. What's going to happen in your home if you go away for a week for a training, and then there's 3 trainings in a row each year. So, that's a lot to ask from a homeschool mom to go off and be able to do. So we're trying to make it easier to understand and simpler and something you can, implement in your home faster, because even once you go to that training, it's really hard to wrap your mind around. Now they do have some online trainings. Go check them out. They're amazing. I get nothing for this. This is just because it's important. Okay. I'm not like a sponsor or anything. So we went to their trainings, and we were blessed to meet with Carol Adams. She's she's not the founder, because Verna Hall and Rosalie Slater were the founders, and it's been around 60 years. The Foundation for American Christian Education, if I didn't say that. 1965, I looked it up, is when they established that. Now, they were working hard before that. Things are always happening before something's established. And Carol Adams is the one that is, I guess, the president. I didn't look that up. I'm sorry. She's head honcho. Let's say that. Anyway, she's a wonderful person. She's got a wonderful family, and the people that all work there are amazing. So I want to tell you a story that when we went to that training, Carol Adams, and she knew Rosalie Hall, and I think Verna Hall and Rosalie Slater. Forgive me for saying that wrong. So she knew them. They've passed away now, and they left this legacy for us. And she told a story. Let me get to the story. It was Verna Hall, and forgive me, this is third-hand knowledge now. So Verna Hall told her, and she told us, and I'm telling you. So I'm going to just be very basic, because I don't want to mess up any of the details, or, and I might still. So I'm going to try really hard, but I want to get the point across. Okay. I'm going to get the point across. So Verna Hall, she worked in one of the first welfare food lines. So I guess it was the Depression, and she was a young woman, and I believe right out of college, if I'm not mistaken. And she worked in this welfare food line, giving free food out. Okay, so think about that. We're used to it now. Everybody's got free food. You can go to any church and go to the food bank. That's great. We need those. But this was the first government-funded, and this is what I'm thinking, government-funded welfare line, okay? And it was the Depression, and so she said that when she first got there, the men that would come were very humbled. They were ashamed to have to ask for handouts. Just their demeanor was, more humbled and ashamed of having to come and get food for their families, because these men have always worked for their families, but now there's no jobs, and, they need food, and so they're desperate, and they come. Within a month, she said, and this is what spurred her to start doing everything she did. Within a month, these men came. Same men are coming in the line, entitled, demanding more, expecting and wanting more. The whole demeanor changed within a month of free government welfare food. Okay. So she saw that and was curious, like, how did this, change? What happened here? And that was her moment of, we need to figure this out. And so then she started, long story short, bunch of research. Skip ahead. She starts the Foundations for American Christian Education, along with Rosalie Slater. She was doing Constitution education in a community area. I'm not sure what it was. And we saw pictures of it. It was really cool. But forgive me for not having more details for that. I'm just 4:00 in the morning. Give me a break. Okay, so Rosalie Slater comes in. She's an educator, and she's like, we've got to teach children this. Like, we've got to teach this to the youth and, fix this thing that's broken. This is in 1965. They're trying to fix it. Here we are, 2026. What a mess. And so they started this, and they started creating resources, and they've got an amazing thing. The Red Books, if you want to get those, they're the ones that republished the 1828 Webster Dictionary, which is the only biblical dictionary. It was the first dictionary, and very different from the Webster. Webster would be disappointed with our Webster dictionaries today. So the 1828 dictionary, we use it all the time. Go look up. Kids love it. So it's really interesting. So the temptation is real, and if money was our motive, we would be all for these, because there's people, everywhere going, okay, how can we get the voucher money? It's happening in every single state it's gone into. All of a sudden prices raise. We can charge more because all these families are going to have more money, and we want to get some of that, piece of the pie, right? So if our motivation was money, guys, we'd be going, hey, get your voucher. And by the way, our cost is now, we can make it like $2,000 because the money's ridiculous, okay, what they're given. By the way, where is that money coming from? Where's that money coming from? Does the government make any money? The government does not make any money. The government gets all of their money from us, from our taxes. Think about that for a second, because where's that money coming from? They're going to give thousands. It's a ridiculous amount of money. And in other states, it's the same thing. It's that and more. They're going to give thousands of dollars to each child. And people are like, well, that's, coming from what would normally go to the schools. Schools are still going to run. Schools are still going to need their funding. Okay. And then they are going to give all this money. You can homeschool for a teeny fraction. I've talked to people that are like, oh, I thought it was too expensive to homeschool. Okay. Our cost, right now it's $75 for the first child, $25 for additional children. It's been like that since the second year. The first year we were even lower, and we realized we're not going to survive if we don't raise it to this. We need to be at operating costs. So that's our operating cost. That is literally our operating costs. Okay. Then you got to get curriculum. So you're legal. You're doing your legal thing, and then you got to get curriculum. You can get a really good set of all the subjects. Maybe $300. That's a good budget. If you have more than that, if you have 500, man, that's an amazing budget. And this is not per child, because if you have more children, you can share resources, you can combine things. You're not buying the same. It goes down per child because you can combine things. And you can even be more resourceful. You can literally homeschool for free if you needed to. Okay, there's a library. If you got a Bible, if you got access to the internet and even a printer, like, there's a ton of free stuff on here. Okay. So $300 to $500, you're talking for the school year, What does a private school education cost? Okay. If you had more, like if you have 1,000, okay, I think private schools, like 6,000, they're going to go up. They're going to go up with these vouchers. Matter of fact, that's already happened. I have families that were in private school, working hard to pay for that private school education, and now can't afford it because they've raised their costs. And I don't know how the vouchers work, but the families I talked to couldn't get the vouchers or weren't going to get the vouchers, whatever the case. And so they're coming to homeschooling. So the Christian schools are losing people to homeschooling. The public schools, they're going into private schools. I've got homeschoolers, because I guess they've opened it up to any students. I've got homeschoolers saying they're going to use the money and go into private schools because they can't use them with a Category 4 school. You're going to lose your children. Okay, so then they go into the schools, okay? We could raise our costs. We could sell some useless, frivolous curriculum that costs, just put a big price tag on it and slap something together real quick, maybe some items. That's not what we're about, okay? We're here to help families get back their responsibility for homeschooling for their children, okay? They're not the government's children. I'm going to say that again over and over and over. But, so then the restrictions come in. So let's say the Christian schools do this, and I've heard people in Christian schools, and they're like, well, they're not asking us to do anything. As soon as they do, we're going to cut it off. If they start asking us for something that oversteps their bounds, that we don't agree with, we're not going to accept them anymore. Let's see how that happens, because you are going to take that money. You're going to have these kids in there. The families are now dependent on that money. The school's now dependent on that money. And then they say, oh, by the way, you have to use this certain curriculum. And it'll be little bits at a time. It'll be whittled away little by little. They'll say, you have to use a certain curriculum. And they're going to say no, because if they do, they're going to go under. Okay. And if they do cut off those vouchers, they're going to lose a lot of families, because they're dependent on the vouchers, okay? So let me see where my notes are. So the restrictions come in, and they always do, tightening down on our freedoms, chipping away, and now we're used to our easy income, and we're not going to refuse. I'm not saying me in particular, I'm saying society. And no, they're going to compromise. It's going to be a compromise, and this will happen to Christian schools. And it's a trap. It's a trap. So they'll have to, or they'll go under. I said that. They won't be able to compete. Okay. If all the schools are taking vouchers, the ones that are going to accept it are the ones that won't, they're not going to be able to compete with each other. Families will also be dependent and will not be able to refuse, and will compromise little by little. It won't be big compromises until next thing you know, we don't know what gender anybody is. I mean, tell me that's not the biggest compromise. Like, how did we get there? Actually, Phyllis Schlafly, she was against she's Eagle Forum, and she made the comment way back in the 60s, I think, maybe even sooner, that, if this, that, or the other happened, pretty soon we're going to have, we're not going to have women in men's bathrooms. And everybody thought that was crazy. And that was a big deal not too long ago. So, we have to think ahead and what's this going to lead to. So we've already seen in other states. I have a dear friend in Florida, and I haven't asked her permission to share this. So I'm going to try to be vague, okay, and still share what she shared with me. Smart family. I've known them for a long time. They're believers. They've got a strong foundation and good roots, which is why she was able to see what I knew she would see eventually. So Florida, she's in Florida. They just did the vouchers there. We are a private school in Florida also. And so she was really looking at, she was for the vouchers. She was like, it's our money. Why can't, the teachers aren't getting paid. We should get paid. They're your children. They're your children. They're not the teacher's children, okay? They're your children. No one should pay you to teach your children. Okay, but she was figuring, and I understand that logic. I do. A lot of people have it. So she was for the vouchers. She totally learned how to use the vouchers and how to get them and all the ins and outs. It is complicated there in Florida. And she was helping other families try to get the vouchers. And she just told me the other day, and I was like, hallelujah. She said, I just was trying to spend this money because you had to spend so much of it and everything. She was like, I was trying to use it and spend this money, and I was going through all the hoops, and I was just so, and I don't know if these are her words, but she was so consumed with it. And finally, she just kind of had a breakthrough and said, what am I doing? Like, this isn't why I homeschool. This isn't, I'm missing the mark, right? You're missing the point. And these are not her words. I'm just telling you what, I envision her, how she shared it with me, what she was thinking. So, but I understand that moment where you look and you're like, why am I, whatever, there's a million of those in my lifetime. So you look at, like, even if you've put your kids in school, like, let's think about that. Why are you giving your children to strangers who do not know them all day long? Who decided they're the experts? A degree, they are not teaching teachers how to educate anymore. And if you're a teacher, bless your heart, I know you go into it for reasons. There's young children, they're like, I'm going to grow up and be a teacher. I understand the heart of that. That is not what is happening when you then dedicate years of your life to school, and you've made this path, and then you get in the system and they tie the hands of the teachers too. And it's a very different path than it used to be to become a teacher. But it always was the plan we have to educate the teachers to educate the children. That's part of the plan. You can get into the history of American education and the normal schools. It's a lot of fun. we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, so why are we giving our kids away? And then you go, what am I doing? You know? And then everybody's complaining that they're not doing a good job. And I have people call me saying, you know, little Johnny wasn't getting what he needs. He's supposed to have a 504 plan and they weren't doing it. And my child can't read and they don't know how to multiply and the basic things. And then they don't think they can do it. I'm like, well, they aren't doing it. So bring them home and do the best you can, because certainly you can do better than that. Okay. So, Christian school. So in Florida, other states, we went to these, trainings with other Christian schools, and that was extremely eye-opening. We're literally talking to the directors of other Christian schools in other states, and one of them, that a state had just gotten the vouchers, were raising their prices. We're like, we only cost $6,000, but now these vouchers they're getting $7,000, so we might as well raise it to $7,000, because otherwise the family doesn't even get to use all of their voucher money. So we might as well do it. So they've raised their costs. And when you raise a cost of something, your needs will meet to that cost. So what happens if the vouchers go away, or if they require something from that school? Is that school going to be comfortable going back down to their price that used to be their operating costs, you know? So everybody's like, well, this is good for Christian schools. They're going to get more money. And so there's another thing that was happening is, and it'll happen here too, is to get the vouchers, there's some kind of regulation, okay? It wouldn't be good government if they didn't regulate money they handed out. So that's not a bad thing. Just should we take it in the first place? Christian schools were being required, this is other states talking to different people, this is a national training, being required to get certain accreditations. They actually were talking to me like this wasn't a big deal. Well, we get this certain accreditation so that we can get the voucher money. And there was one in particular school, and these were Christian schools. One in particular school, I was talking to a lady, and we were talking about curriculum, and I was sharing some Christian curriculum, and I asked, you know, if they use some common Christian curriculum that I know homeschoolers use that have come from Christian schools, okay, texts that were being sold to Christian schools that we also use. And she said, oh no, we use, and it was secular curriculum, because that's how they're getting their vouchers. They have to use a certain curriculum, not because the voucher says you have to use a certain curriculum. The voucher will say you have to take certain standardized tests. The voucher will say, the approval will say you have to be accredited by a certain agency. And then so that certain agency then says, oh, to be accredited, you have to use this curriculum, or you have to teach these certain things in your classes. And, you know, it's not a big deal. You get all this money and you can do it however you want or whatever, but we're going to be, you know, checking off. Some of them these accreditations are extremely detailed about like certain things that need to be said in a classroom. And it could even be a scripture verse. But if you're so worried about making sure you fit in these scripture verses, you're not actually teaching the students that are in front of you. And we found that out with the hybrid classes. Like, you have to be able to have the freedom and the flexibility to teach unique individual children, not a classroom of 30 that, you know, you're giving out a box, you know, thing. Children do not work that way. Children are individuals, okay? So even if you're in a co-op or hybrid, yes, there might be something that you want to make sure you cover or an idea you're getting across, but the point is you're teaching that individual child, and they all learn differently and they all need something different, and you need to be able to be flexible. If you're teaching like a co-op or a hybrid classes, or you're a tutor, group tutor, you have to be able to have the freedom to be flexible to teach the individual child, and have a passion and a love to do it, because you can't just stick anybody in there because they got a degree and they do not have the character or the personality to be with a group of kids and through the good and the bad. You know, some days are really hard, and love them. When they're your children, you love them every day. They're your children. You know them the best. You can teach them the best. It comes naturally. I promise you. You just have to want to do it and try. Okay, testing. Testing's another way they get in the door. If there's a standardized test and your kids aren't passing this test, well, you have to teach to the test. You have to. There's no like, well, we'll just take the test and, oh, you just didn't know that. No, now the tests look bad and your school looks bad and you lose money or whatever. So, and even for homeschoolers, don't get trapped into, oh my goodness, you didn't do good on the standardized test. Look at what it is that they're asking for. Okay, maybe you weren't teaching that in history and that's what it asked for. Maybe you haven't got to that in math yet. That's okay. You know, when you're worrying about a test score, especially these standardized tests, when, you know, standardized test doesn't touch on the Holocaust or Hitler or the Nazis, so don't bother teaching that. That's not on the test. What is on the test is America bombed Japan. Make sure they know that. Okay, so I'm just saying it can sway you to what you will teach. And there is an agenda there, so be careful. I'm not saying don't test your kids. I'm just saying use it as a tool, but think about how it's being used and don't let it control you, okay? So teaching the tests and all of this and everything I said, these traps, this is not education. Step back and go, what is actual education? It's not teaching to a test or having to have a certain curriculum and making sure they know. That's teaching is encouraging, okay? It's teaching them to think and reason. We're not teaching them to think and reason when we're just memorizing facts for a test, okay? So in conclusion, costs will raise, taxes will raise, costs of schools, curriculums, vendors will all go up. We'll all become dependent on the state. That's their goal, guys. Be careful. We'll be dependent for our livelihood. We will lose all of our freedom. We'll lose even our minds. It has happened in the past and it will happen. It's happening. It will continue to happen. It's a brilliant communist plan. It really is. You need to know, wise as serpents, gentle as doves. You need to know what their plan is. I'm not saying consume yourself with it, but you got to be educated. We will walk right into a communist country of our own making. Useful idiots. This term was used by Stalin and Lenin, communist leaders. If you don't know who they are, just go do a quick search on that. I don't know what you'll get on the internet these days. Try and find some primary documents. The Communist Party said this during their takeover. So when China and Russia were being taken over by force, okay, and I don't have my dates and everything right now, but by the Communist Party, okay, they still want a worldwide Communist Party. They don't call it communism anymore. They call it progressive, they call it liberal, they call it Democrat. They're using other terms. Look at what they're doing. It's still communist. My dogs are just waking up. It's really early, guys. They're wanting to go out. Someone will let them out. So during this, when they were taking over, there was an American Communist Party, and they said, you know what? We're still a little too American over here. Even the Communist Party was a little more American. They said, we're not going to take them by force. We don't want to do that. We're gonna have them beg us for it. Okay, so let's say that was, 1840s was Marxism, 1940s was the whole, 30s, 40s was the whole Holocaust and Nazi stuff and Hitler. So here we're, quite a ways from that. They've been playing the long game and we're asking them for it. We're going, hey, we need money to educate our own children. Hey, we need, you're supposed to provide everything for us. They aren't, guys. We should be helping each other. There are times in need. We should be helping each other, help your brother in need. And it should be our choice. It shouldn't be tax money taken from us. And then the government decides who gets help for that. Because what's going to happen is somebody is not going to qualify for these vouchers. Somebody's like me and my family are going to choose not to take any government money for vouchers. And where are we going to be when all the prices are raised? And then they'll just say, well, you should have taken it, Nope. So these vouchers might just as well be our last stand. That's what gets me upset. I'm holding it together, guys. And this has been a 40-minute video so far, so forgive me. They might be our last stand. Homeschooling is so affordable here in Tennessee. It really is. And it really can be anywhere. And it still is in the U.S. It's still very affordable. You can do this. And we have a lot of people that'll help. I mean, there was a lady the other day, and I have my own curriculum, and she called up, and it's a friend of my daughter's, and that has her children. She's homeschooling, and she was like, I'm struggling. I can't afford books right now. All this other stuff happened. I took some of my books and let her borrow them. And then she, looked them up and started using those books, liked them, brought my books back. And she was like, everything's fine now. We're able to buy those books. So we bought them, and here's your books back. I mean, that's what we do. Homeschoolers help each other. Just make connections. That's where the power really is. So education is exceptional with homeschooling. It's varied like it should be. It shouldn't be a box curriculum. It shouldn't be somebody telling you how you have to teach your child. You're going to be able to teach your child individually for their gifts, for their strengths, for their challenges, and you're going to be able to meet each need. And there are resources out there, and there's people to help, and there's just plenty. You do have to do it. You're the parent. You're responsible. You have to go take that initiative. Not always easy, but you can, and all of it's there for the taking, okay? You just have to do it. I see my hair sticking up in the video here. Forgive me. Okay, so we are not cogs in a government system wheel. We're not cogs, okay? Does that make sense? We're not a machine for them to just use however. That's communism. We're here for the society. No. We are individuals, and strong families make strong communities. And that's what made America exceptional. We're uniquely and wonderfully made in the image of God. Don't forget that. And I promise you, God is in control, but he gave us choice. Okay, he gave that to us. What will you choose this day? Will you choose a blessing? Will you choose liberty and freedom? Lasting prosperity, or the curse of bondage? Do not take what looks like the easy road. It will lead to destruction. And what is worth doing is worth working for. And we will have the greatest reward if you work for that. Work for your children. They're your children. They're not the government's children. Don't lose the last of our freedom here. The freedom to educate our own children, guard them, and train them up in the way. I beg you, let's not be useful idiots. Let's not let them call us that. We're not going to support what can lead to communism, what can lead to the loss of our freedoms. And if any of this stuff in this video sounds foreign to you, I'm really encouraging you to go do some of your own research. Read the Communist Manifesto. I mean, seriously, it's sick. It's sick. We do not want to get there. Okay, this is not going to be good for all of you. What is the feminist movement and feminism and the environmentalism and all the isms are working towards. They sound good. I mean, look what they did. The Education Freedom Act. Oh my goodness, I want education freedom. That sounds great. Don't let them fool you. What are they really taking from us? They're taking our freedom from us. Usually these acts they put in, you can almost say the opposite, and that's really what it is. I mean, Planned Parenthood, that's really unplanned parenthood. That means you didn't plan, Don't get me started. Okay, so I hope that this is a long video. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much for listening. I hope this makes a difference in your life. I hope that I have educated you a little bit. If you already were not for these, that maybe you've got a little education you can share with somebody else to help them make a better decision. And please, please don't be for these vouchers anywhere. And even for Christian schools, if you're listening, please make different choices. We can do this together. Okay, we're strong. We're Americans. Love y'all. Have a great day. Happy homeschooling.